There tends to be so much excitement and inspiration around a new year and these ideas and intentions of what we want to do or accomplish within the new year. And recently I was pondering this idea of starting the year with, these dreams and ideas and intentions and goals. And then getting to the end of the year and realizing we're in the same place that we were at the beginning of the year. And in pondering this, a really great reminder came up that just hoping and dreaming and having intentions or even specific goals is not the thing that is going to create a change in your life or, in a certain area of your life. If you actually want to see a change, then you have to change who you are, how you're showing up in the world, the things you do, and the kinds of decisions that you make. If you want to see a change in your reality, you have to change how you're moving through the world. How you've been showing up has created the outcomes you have currently. And so if that's not what you want, then you have to start doing something differently. And this can sound so obvious and such like a duh moment of like, of course, that makes so much sense. But there really is such a difference in something just making so much sense and feeling kind of obvious, and actually implementing that thing into our life. Actually truly prioritizing showing up differently and making sure that we are changing our habits and our patterns and our tendencies instead of just continuing to fall back into our familiar patterns. And I think it can be so easy to discount just how easy it is for us to fall back into our normal way of doing things, into our familiar tendencies, even simply just from being distracted with all the other things that are going on in our lives. And we just do not end up prioritizing keeping our focus on the way we are showing up in a day-to-day basis and making sure it is different than our norm. So the key really ends up being so committed to noticing what our patterns are, what our tendencies are, and then choosing to show up differently. Because real change happens when we consistently show up in new ways. So for example, if one of your current tendencies is to start aiming for some kind of goal, start working toward a goal, and then after a few weeks you don't see super obvious results, so you just fall off, you stop trying. Well, one, you first have to have the courage and be able to sit with the discomfort of being able to be honest with yourself about the ways that you're showing up that may not be super aligned with what you actually want. It can be really uncomfortable to sit there and look in the face and recognize that you're not showing up in a way that you wish you were. And then it becomes a practice of self-leadership. And okay, now I have more awareness around this pattern that is probably holding me back from what I want. And now I have to do the uncomfortable thing and call myself out when I notice myself starting to go down that route and choose to do something different. So in this example, changing how you're showing up could look like noticing your thoughts and actions starting to fall into that place of, okay, it's been a couple weeks. I don't have the outcome I want yet. I'm not seeing a ton of results or progress. Instead of letting yourself continue down your normal route, you hold yourself in a more neutral place of, okay, it's only been a few weeks. Of course, I'm not going to see a ton of results in just a few weeks. I can see that this is my usual tendency of during this time, this is when I start to just stop trying and kind of fall off from things. So instead, I'm going to show up as the version of myself who keeps going, because my typical pattern definitely wasn't getting me where I wanted to go. So I'm going to hold myself to doing this instead and practicing showing up as this version of me instead. Or maybe you have a pattern of saying, okay, I'm going to work out this week, but then you get to the end of the week and you didn't work out. And this keeps happening and you notice, okay, this is clearly a tendency of mine and it's definitely not getting me the results that I want to see. So I need to do something differently. And maybe you try adding your workouts to your calendar and in your schedule so you have a more concrete plan of when you're actually going to do them. Or maybe you do that already, but when it comes time to actually do the workout, you talk yourself out of doing it. So then the way that you change how you're showing up and moving through the world is by practicing being the person who does the workouts when they're on your calendar and not talking yourself out of doing it. It's almost like a game of Whatever I normally do, I'm going to do the opposite. Whatever my tendencies are, I'm going to do the opposite of that. And that's how you take steps toward becoming that version of you. You're practicing being this new version of you. And as you start to practice that again and again and again, you end up becoming this new version of you. And that is how you create different outcomes in your life. And a huge hack to life is really getting to know your motivators. When you are able to motivate yourself way more often than not through just understanding what truly motivates you, what those things are, and what kind of self-talk that entails, then you are golden. This is probably pretty obvious, but it is so, so helpful to be able to get yourself to take action in a direction that you're not used to. Really to be able to get yourself to take any kind of action, but that much more when it requires more effort, when it may be more uncomfortable, when it's more of something that's outside of your norm. And a point I want to make sure to make is that none of this means that you have to completely overhaul all of your patterns and tendencies. But if you look at the specific area of what you want to change, or, within the area of life that you want to make a change or improve, look at what are the tiny small ways I can start showing up differently that are likely to make at least some kind of a difference, right? Look at the small daily actions and decisions, and then just continue to build upon that. But again, the main takeaway here is that hopes and dreams and intentions and setting goals, those are all really great things. But those alone are not going to be what ends up making the change that you want to see in your life. The only thing that will is changing how you're showing up. You have to be so committed to showing up differently because what you want on the other side of it is worth it to you. And the last thing we want really, especially if we have a specific area of our lives that we do want to see change or improvement in, is to continue to have the desire and intention of change just to find ourselves continuing to be exactly where we've been, right? Staying right where we are, potentially for year after year. So this is your loving reminder that nothing changes if nothing changes. And as uncomfortable as it might be, or as much effort it might take to really pay attention to what your day-to-day patterns and tendencies are, and then make a point to actually change them and do the opposite, that is going to be what makes the difference in your life. So when I was pondering this was such a helpful reminder even for me, and I figured it would probably be a helpful reminder for someone else too. So let me know in the comments if this was helpful for you, if you got some kind of value out of it. This channel is dedicated to helping women go from where you are now to where you want to be. So if that's your thing, if that's what you're looking to do, make sure to subscribe and stick around. But thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye.